Why not? Good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. Yes, and we got another very, very interesting insight as to how this family feels about South Africa. As I say, these are valuable stories because they give a great insight into what's going on in people's minds and their experiences, and it's very, very valuable information. Anyway, the gentleman's name is Neil, and he writes, "I am an avid fan and watcher of your channel. Thank you for all the content you create, the time and energy you put into your channel. It is very much appreciated. I don't go to mainstream sources for news about South Africa. I go directly to your channel. It saves time. I'd like to share with you the story of how I ended up in South Africa and why I am now leaving this beautiful country, which is now marred and sullied by racism, hate, envy, violence, corruption, and ignorance. As a young man in the late 90s, I looked upon South Africa as a place to be. It seemed that there was the enormous bristling potential for amazing things to emerge from the demise of apartheid. The ending of apartheid was akin to the crumbling of the Berlin Wall. At least that's how it appeared to me. The repressive white regime was over. The black and coloured population was now free to pursue their lives, free from oppressive edifice of white apartheid. What did I know about apartheid? Only what was fed to me by the mainstream media. Remember, this was in the 90s. The internet was just being birthed. What did I know about South Africa or Africa in general? Not much. Only what I'd gleaned from the Wilbur Smith novels. Yet the place attracted me. It felt like South Africa was on the cusp of a new era, so to speak. So full of romantic optimism, youthful desire, and idealism, and a healthy dose of naivety, I decided to head off to Cape Town in search of a better life, free from the 20 years of rain that I'd endured in Ireland. Now it's about 20 years on. I've met some of the most wonderful people I could ever hope to meet in my life. I've travelled throughout South Africa and Southern Africa in my Land Cruiser. A mere 7 years ago I met a beautiful woman who is now my wife, and we are fortunate to be very much in love with one another. We have a beautiful home in Cape Town and have a wonderful, loving life together. My work takes me out of the country on a regular basis, and as a result I return after a number of months and notice changes, not positive changes, but dismal, negative changes, sometimes small and sometimes life-changing. For the sake of brevity, I'll say that South Africa is in total decline, as if you didn't already know that. My wife and I will not have children in South Africa for the simple reason it's far too violent, dangerous and sick environment to bring children into. The levels of crime, the brutality and unadulterated hate with which crimes are committed against white people is shocking. I read about the couple who were recently murdered in their vehicle sitting by the side of the road waiting for a family member to come bring them some diesel as their bakkie had run out of fuel. 3 black men walked by and casually gunned them down. The depravity of such behaviour reminds me of how the Rwandan Hutus butchered the Tutsis, the almost offhanded way in which murder is committed. I visited Rwanda a number of times and studied the genocide. It is reminiscent of how the Hutu butchered the Tutsis. This kind of behaviour is now prevalent all over South Africa. I'm shocked at how white people are cowed, wringing their hands, afraid to be called racist or perceived as racist, while the most racist people on the planet murder them and their kin. I have yet to read a story of a farmer or a householder who thwarted an attack by using her or her firearm to defend herself and their family. Are whites in South Africa not armed anyway, or anymore? I know of 2 who most certainly are. The vile attitude of the black population towards the whites shows a remarkably stunning level of ignorance. The perpetual whining about apartheid and how it ripples are still having a negative impact on the black and coloured communities today. Well, I say bullshit, and I agree with you, buddy. It is bullshit. Apartheid is a long time over. Time to grow up and get over it. The Irish were colonised and oppressed by the British for 800 years and then some. The brutality of that occupation was grisly and bestial. Ireland became a republic in 1919. Well, technically it was a free state, still influenced by the Crown. True independence was not declared until 1936, I believe. Did the Irish spend years whining about how poor and uneducated they are and blame it on the British? Absolutely not. They just got on with it. Even though 6 countries in the north of the small island stayed part of the British Empire and remain so today. Sorry, that should be 6 counties in the north. I'm reminded of the great scene from Monty Python, The Life of Brian. Not sure whether you're familiar with it or not. It features a scene in a safe house in Jerusalem where a bunch of Jewish revolutionaries are plotting to kidnap Pilate's wife. John Cleese makes a short speech and ends with a rhetorical question. What have the Romans ever done for us? For a brief moment there is silence from his audience until someone timidly says, the aqueduct? This opens a floodgate for more voices to mention the numerous things the Romans had done to modernize their country. Similarly, you could conduct the same sketch with the EFF and Julius, there in his red beret addressing a group of cadres and bleating, what have the whites ever done for us? You see where this is going. I would answer that question by saying building a modern first world nation with fantastic infrastructure, systems of governance and thriving industries, and handing it to you on a plate. That's what the whites have done for blacks in South Africa. By way of thanks, we hear the rhetoric about murdering white people, butchering them, and seeing them head off to their boats to depart Africa for good. And not only do we hear the rhetoric about murder, we experience the murder, torture, and rape of our kith and kin. We are lucky in that we can leave. I have an Irish passport, and my wife has an Italian heritage, along with benefits that confers. We can leave. The majority of our friends cannot. They are stuck there and have to make the best of their life in what is now a grim and menacing country. I fear that there are very dark days ahead for South Africa, and the Afrikaner people as well as the white people in general. I would not be happier to be absolutely dead wrong about such a prediction, and I hope that I am, but I worry that I am not, and the writing is very clearly on the big wall. So much so that my wife and I have decided that we'd rather live elsewhere in this beautiful world. We are sad to leave South Africa, and at the same time glad and relieved. It is most certainly a strange combination of emotions. I feel angry at times that we have been pushed out of our home country. However, it feels like the black tide is almost too hard to push against, and the white population seems fragmented and atomized. Cohesion and togetherness is the way that they will survive. I think the Saitlanders are on the right path in that respect. I've had 20 years being a guest in South Africa, and I wouldn't change a thing. For the majority of that time I felt like I was a welcome guest. Now I feel a dark hostility. I still think the potential for a bright future exists in South Africa, but I don't see it happening in the next 20 years. Perhaps in another couple of generations. As the fellow with the guitar said, love is never lost, it just gets mislaid. And then he signs off by saying, keep up the good work. Much respect to you and yours, Neil. Well, thank you, Neil. I mean, look, these insights from people who live in South Africa and explain their story are very, very valuable, as I've said before. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates, and have a great day. Bye for now.